Step 6 in the home buying process is surrounding renegotiations. Now, this doesn't happen every single time, but no home is perfect and no transaction is either. So sometimes a renegotiation is necessary. There are various reasons why a renegotiation could be required. We've already alluded to some of them in previous videos in the series, but they could come as a result from an issue with the appraisal that I mentioned before. They could come as a result from an issue with the seller's disclosures that we also talked about. Or more often than not, it's going to be an issue with the home inspection and findings that have surfaced in this discovery process. There are a few ways to deal with this. If there's something that we come across that we feel need to be addressed by the seller in order to keep moving forward with the transaction, we can simply ask them to literally hire someone and fix the problem before we close escrow. That's called a request for repairs, and there's an actual form in our contract that is used for that. That's called a request for repairs, and we actually have a designated form in our contract for this specific scenario. Having a seller hire someone to fix a problem is not the only way to address this, though. Another way to handle it is to ask the seller to give you a credit at closing for the cost of that repair. And a third way to handle it is to ask them to simply reduce the price by the amount of the repair needed. In my experience, I found the best way to handle this request for repair scenario is to go with option 2. Getting a credit from the seller's proceeds at closing will still put that money in your pocket because you get that much less money that you have to come into the closing table with. So you're still gonna get the figure that you've asked for, but you don't have to have your seller rush and get it done before we close escrow. And you don't have to be beholden to some selection that the seller chooses. You get to actually make the choice of who you want to actually have do the work. You can also take your time by doing this anytime after closing instead of having to rush and try and figure out who can do this quickly instead of who can just do the best job for you at the most reasonable price. So usually if there's something that needs to be addressed in negotiations at this point, it's gonna be through the request for repair in the form of a seller credit and in some cases, a price reduction. If you've got any questions about any of this or need some further explanation, feel free to reach out. I'd love to walk you through the process. And that's it. We've completed step 6, the renegotiation.